As you know, I'm Kay Neese, originally from Indianapolis. Um, um, as a little girl at age 8, I was first abused by my whole family. I was the ugly duckling. They would hit me with everything they could grab. It doesn't matter what it was. If you didn't eat your food, that hot pan of vegetables are going on your head. Some nights, I would have black and blue eyes and bloody mouth. I got bullied every day at school. At the age of 10, it got worse. I got molested by my father and my brother. They would take turns. I would even get shared by the landlord so that they could have free rent. My father would always burn my little sister with cigarettes. I taught her to say, please stop, because she was handicapped. So I taught her a little bit of sign language. And the best way I could tell her to tell him to back off was to stick out her hand. I didn't know any better that he would burn her. At the age of 14, I got taken away from my parents and put into foster care. My first foster home was great. No men, only 2 women. At the time, I didn't know they were lesbians. Went to school with my sister, and I found out she found me because she was on runaway. She saw me and said, my handicapped brother was sick. My older brother was handicapped. I didn't know she was lying, so I went back home. The next thing I knew, I wasn't allowed to leave. The cops finally had a search warrant and found me at the home. Put me on probation for runaway for a whole year. Let's teach her a lesson. Got sent to another one in Terre Haute. I got transferred here to Terre Haute within a year, so I wouldn't run away again. After I was transferred to Terre Haute is where I went to North High School, and I met Brian for the first time. We were in ROTC Air Force together. I had a blast. Everyone knew me by Kay Neese, and he didn't believe my name at first because I went by Kay. Kay's not really a name. That's what he would say. And so he didn't believe me. He went to the classroom of ROTC because he was the head macho. He was allowed to. And then he found out my real name, before I changed it, was Leslie K. Krebs. And he came back saying, hi, Leslie. Next thing I know, I racked him. And I'm pretty sure you know what that means. Without thinking, because at the time I hated all men possible. And the next thing I turned around, there stood a dean. I got into trouble. Went there for 2 years and got sent to South for the rest of the 2 years because of foster care. Was in ROTC, Army. Very, very different. Lost control, lost contact with Brian, said our goodbyes. Got put into Taekwondo, learned a lot. But after 3 years in it, I couldn't do a certain tornado kick. I missed a jump and hit the concrete with my knee, tore the ligament bad. By graduation, I was in 12 homes totally. Very frustrating. I didn't want to be in foster care no more. Got to have a visit with my so-called mom. Nothing good came out of it. I thought maybe I could continue to see her. Maybe I could change her and make her to a better mother. It didn't work, so the visits stopped for the best. Was in court every month testifying against my dad. It was hard, but he was found guilty for 100 years, never getting out. Last time I saw my dad in court, he threatened me, and that's when that he would pretty much kill me if he ever got out. So I changed my name from Leslie K. Krebs to Kay Lynn Krebs. Finally thought the drama was over. Had to graduate early from high school because of my age. By the time I was 20, finally getting out of foster care, I was in foster care for a long time. In my head, it was time to live life. So I had a party. Went to North, invited everybody I could. But the main person I wanted to invite was Brian, because I saw him again. I got drunk badly. The next thing I knew, I drank too much, and I got raped at the party. I wanted to die, but my best friend stopped me, which was Brian. I tried everything. I tried to slice, dice, is what I would call it, and try to hang myself with my taekwondo belts. Next thing I know, I started smoking weed. Not for a long time, because I didn't really like the whole loopiness. Got very depressed, losing my mind, even tried to kill myself many times. Heading down the wrong path, my best friend Brian stood by my side. We became closer together, got married in October of 2007. I was pregnant with Grace while trying to fit him into a wedding dress. Stopped taking my meds for depression, cold turkey, without doctor's permission. But deep down, my past, my father, what he did to me, and all the abuse was still in my head, not being able to forgive him. Made me mad, hearing everything happen for a reason. Kept asking pastors, what did this happen to me before? Why? Why me? They said everything happens for a reason. I didn't understand at the time what it meant. I pushed Brian away, Grace too, and everyone who got close. Beginning to feel loneliness and sad and confused, and started having thoughts of Brian cheating. I even envisioned it. I didn't ask him at all, just believed what my head told me. I cheated on Brian. My mind kept saying, this is who you are, no more, no less. Afterwards, I wanted to tell Brian I felt sad and scared, because I watched the movies. You tell your husband, something bad's going to happen. I became more depressed by keeping it inside. We grew far apart because of my fear to tell him. So I turned to the PS3, the game called Resistance Fall of Man. I was pretty good at it, I can admit that. So can Brian. Started hearing different guys, their comments. Hearing them say, you sound hot. I was like, okay. I left it be first. So I started sexting one of the guys. And then it turned out my husband found my phone. I felt very embarrassed of what I'd become. So I ran away to Indy from everyone who loved me and wanted to help me in my situation. Brian forgave me, still loved me, but I couldn't believe it. In my head, there was no way it's possible. So I got to Indy, tried to kill myself with pills that I had tried to take, thinking I don't deserve anyone, especially my kids and my husband. I became this evil person. In my mind, this is all I am. I become to a point where I was mad at everything at every time. My sister even stole my money, tried to get me to become her. So I drank and smoked drugs, and I sat there and watched her abuse her kids. Not once did I stand up and say anything. So I left her house and moved into a friend's house, Tammy and Tommy. There was this guy. There was all over me once again. Once I moved in, rubbing my arm and leg, and then he kept asking me for sex. And I thought, well, this is the only way to get him off of me, then I have no choice. So I cheated again. After a week went by, I kept to myself. Things seemed to get worse. This guy got out of control. He became controlling, and he threatened my life and my kids, even Brian's, to put him on a milk carton if I had any conversation with Brian. Life as itself did not exist anymore. He took my phone and erased all the messages from what Brian sent me, just to get me to argue with Brian, so I would stay in Indy. Next thing I knew, I beginning to get sick and in pain, not knowing why. I went to the hospital. They ran a test, like normal pregnant test, UTI. They all came back negative. But then they found 2 large cysts on my ovaries. They put me on Vicodin and morphine. Went home, back to the house where I was staying. Couldn't hardly stand, unable to stay awake. So this guy had found me again, but didn't understand how. Because next morning I had a horrible feeling something has happened by waking up in different clothing and nowhere to be, my clothes were gone that I had on. This guy looked at me laughing and saying that he got what he wanted finally because I turned him down for sex after the first time. Is there a tissue?
That's the way I wrote.
Anyways, he said he finally got what he wanted because I turned him down for the first time and didn't want what he wanted while I was on meds. A couple weeks went by, not feeling so good. Found out that I was pregnant. The same day that I packed my bags to come home back to my family. I found I finally got paid the same day. I bought 10 tests, 10 of them, and they all came out positive for pregnancy. I cried every time that I saw a positive. I wanted to come home very bad, but I thought there was no way I could now. Everything became worse. That within the following month, my grandma she died in April, 3 days before Easter. And she says what I did and had become made her unhappy. Her last words. She told me to go home. Stop saying he won't forgive me. It's not up to me. I called Brian up afterwards, after I buried my grandma, and asked if I could stay the weekend with him and the kids. He said yes, even though I could stay with him instead of a hotel. I was so excited to see them, but I didn't want to show it. Saw Brian, I kept quiet, too scared to talk. That night in bed, I started to cry. Brian asked me, what is wrong? I was afraid to say anything, so he held me. I cried even more, and then I told him I cheated, and I got pregnant. I was too afraid to tell him that how I became pregnant was by being raped. Then out of nowhere, he says he loved me still, and I could stay. I said, how? I'm not good for you. You deserve better. A month after coming home, he noticed that I had PTSD. I would scream, yell on top of my lungs, not know where I was. I thought this guy who hurt me, I thought he was Brian. I saw Brian, we were arguing, and I thought I pretty much saw this guy there. I throw things, he would duck in just in time, and he would hold me. It was hard and very scary. But he sat me down every day and helped me through what I was feeling, what had happened. He says, just rip the Band-Aid off. We can move past. The following Sunday, we went to church. But I had this weird feeling that I was being tugged from the devil and God, to explain, should I or shouldn't I get saved, or do I deserve it? It's like having these little people on your shoulders. I really wanted God. So I couldn't stay in my seat no longer. Brian turned around. I was gone. I ran up to the altar. Amen. So I fell at the altar asking forgiveness and getting saved. Every day since, I have become a better mom and wife. Amen. I put God first in my life, which I've never done before. I even deleted, as my words, my blood family out of my life. I don't need the drama. I put people in my life who are better. Helps out a lot. Amen. Now I have a beautiful baby girl. God saved her life by making my cyst disappear, which they were surprised.
That's awesome.
It was gone without a trace.
Amen.
They did an ultrasound because I had a UTI once again. And they said, what cyst? There's no trace.
Wow.
And that's when they told me she was supposed to be born on Christmas Eve.
Oh, that's awesome.
They took her early because they thought she was going to be a 12-pound baby. Close enough, she was 9'14". After all the pills, I took 160 of Benadryl pills all at the same time with a lot of alcohol. She came out very healthy, 9'14".
Amen.
Also seeing my daughter every day, praising God and Splash, proves that God has made a difference in my life and my daughter's. Seeing my son, hands up in the air, praising God. He even told Spring the other day, I'm behaving for God.
Oh, that's awesome.
He prays over everything now. His birthday, he prayed over his whole pizza and everything. He took charge of it. Waking up each morning, each day to my husband, by my side, and hearing him say every day, I love you, is a blessing. People in church have made a difference and also in our family's lives with support and love. Thanks to the pastor, hearing him tell me, my God is the true Father. He'll never hurt me or leave me. Helped out a lot. I even asked my kids for forgiveness, and I even got on my knees too. What Mommy did was bad. I know in the future now that I would have to explain to my kids about their grandpa and grandma that are no longer in my life because it's on the internet without my knowing. But still today, taking one day at a time, trying to heal from my depression, when things for sure I'm putting God in God's hands, not in my own. All my hurt and pain, noticing I can't do it on my own, and surrendering it to God makes a huge difference.
Amen.